Welcome to the next episode of The Category Mistake. I'm your host, Richard Mariello, and today we're going to be talking about something that I've been experiencing in my life for 27 years now. Not till December, but we're pretty close, so I'll give myself credit for that. Marriage. So I got married December 17th, 1994. It was snowing out, it was cold, and it was a spur of the moment. Hey, we need to get married this weekend, so let's get married. Backstory, my wife and I were dating, and she got pregnant, and come to find out our daughter was going to need surgery. After she was born in November, they told us she was going to need surgery, and the surgery was very expensive. So our insurance basically said that they weren't going to pay for it unless we were married. So we already had a wedding planned for the following summer, and we just said, hey, okay, how do we fix that? And they're like, well, we don't have to file the paperwork till Monday. It's Wednesday. If you get married and have a marriage certificate in by next Monday, then you're good to go. So we found our parents, went down to City Hall, filed the paperwork, and that Saturday, we got married in my mom's living room in the middle of a snowstorm, and it was great. Okay, it was crazy because you don't get married that quick. You should not have to plan a wedding in 3 days, but we did. My wife, beautiful as ever, was in my sister's wedding gown, who had gotten married years prior, and my friend and I spent the night before in my mom's house, setting up the living room with benches from the summer house, and that's what people sat on. It was a hot mess, but it's something we'll always remember. And then, of course, 10 years later, we renewed our vows, and we did the big church wedding and the nice dress and the nice suit, and we did an actual honeymoon. Our first honeymoon was, we went back to our house, and that's it. The cats got out. The cats escaped that night, and we had to go find them for a while. But on that, there wasn't really a lot going on. It was just her and I at the house, pretend, now we're married. Boom, you're married. There wasn't a lot of romance or anything else in that time being married. It was just, hey, you're married. And of course, 10 years later, when we renewed our vows, we made it more of a big deal. So my interpretation of marriage growing up was not great. For the longest time, I looked at marriage as something that adults did that most of them hated. And I could see why. I mean, most adults seem miserable. They seemed like they didn't enjoy themselves, and they seemed like they were doing it because that's what they were supposed to do. But when I met my wife, I'd already been in contact and dealt with a very secure married couple, and they kind of gave me a different perspective on things. They kind of showed me that marriage can be good. It can be enjoyable. It's still a lot of work. There's still a lot of things that happen that go wrong that you don't want to, but in the long run, marriage is a blessing. You just have to give it time to become that blessing. So when my wife and I got married, we were young. She had just graduated high school 6 months prior. I graduated the year before that. We had a new daughter. She was a month old, and we had no idea what we were doing. None. And we literally just winged it for the first couple of years. So in the first year of our marriage, we got married. Our daughter had major skull surgery, and we moved to Florida. When we moved to Florida, it was because my wife wanted a change of pace, and I said, okay. And we loaded up the car, and we drove to Florida with a 9-month-old, and we moved to Florida. Got to Florida, got new jobs, dealt with life, and then she got pregnant again with our son. And when she got pregnant, she also was starting to say things like, I miss home. So we loaded up Josie, she was about 15, 16 months old. We put her on a bus, a Greyhound bus in the middle of Florida, and we took the bus from Florida all the way back up here to Maine. If anyone's ever been on a trip with a child, on a plane, on anything, on a car, the bus is probably the worst possible scenario to have a child on for that amount of time. And we did it, and it was exhausting. There was a lot of people helpful. There were a lot of helpful people on the Greyhound bus. There were a lot of people who tried to keep Josie entertained. But again, after 40 hours on a bus, it doesn't matter. That 15, 16-month-old child doesn't care anymore. They just want normalcy. And, well, you can't get that on a bus. Our son was born that following August. And then, we ran into some rough patches. My wife and I had some areas where we had to work on some things. And then she got pregnant with our third child. When she was pregnant with our third child, things changed a lot. She and I had some stressors in our lives. And instead of what we do now, which is talk about them and work through them, we kind of just shut up and didn't say a thing. Now, the problem with that, and when you're married, is you can't fix a problem if you don't acknowledge there's a problem. You can't just hide your head. You can't put your head in the sand if there's an asteroid heading towards Earth and pretend it's not coming, because it's still coming no matter what, right? So after our son was born, my wife had some postpartum depression, not postmenopausal depression, but postpartum depression. And for a while, actually, it looked like my wife was going to divorce me because she had some things going on in her life, and the way I was handling things wasn't exactly appropriate either. I was not being helpful. I was more like just saying, oh, it's not a problem. We'll deal with it later. She had a lot of things, and instead of telling her, hey, we need to deal with this, let's attack this full on, I kind of just put my head in the sand and said, yeah, it'll be fine. If I don't pay attention to it, it's not really happening. It was still happening. Okay, it doesn't matter. And if you're married, if your wife or husband has problems, putting your head in the sand is not how you fix the problem. You have to attack it head on. I did not do that, and my wife struggled with that too. So together, we were ignoring problems that almost led to us being divorced. Of course, it didn't. And in the long run, we renewed our vows. Our marriage has gotten stronger. Marriage, though, good, bad, or ugly, there's a movie. Growing up as a kid, I used to watch it, and my kids have watched it, and I have the 25th anniversary edition on DVD. And a lot of people know it. It's Princess Bride. Princess Buttercup is marrying someone she doesn't want to marry, and the line is like, marriage is what brings us here together today. That blessed arrangement, that dream within a dream. The wedding day is a dream. The day that the bride walks down the aisle and the groom is looking all stupid and happy, and the bride is crying and the bride's family's crying, and all that is great. Okay, that's what everyone goes for. That 1 hour of your life leads to the next 30, 40, 50 years. Unfortunately, when a lot of people get married, they want that 1 hour to be the next 40, 50 years. It isn't. Marriage is work. Marriage is taking time every day to remember that you love the person that's next to you forever. I wake up every day and I have to say, okay, I love my wife. Why? I want to be with my wife. Why? Why is that love so important to me? And it's not that my wife doesn't do enough that I don't love her. That's not it. It's because, if I start taking that for granted, I'll lose it. If I just expect, I'll love her tomorrow, I don't have to say why, I don't have to explain, I don't have to think about it. That's not putting in any work. And that's the struggle a lot of people have with marriage is we're newlyweds, so we're learning about each other still. Okay, great. When you're 10 years in, you should still be learning about each other. When you're 20 years in, you should still be learning about each other. My wife and I are at almost 27 years, and we're still learning things about each other because we're taking the time to ask each other the questions. I struggle with things in our marriage, and the things I struggle with are trusting her with the stressors in my life. If money's stressing me out, or work is stressing me out, or the world is stressing me out, I don't like to tell her because I don't want to stress her out and upset her, and I'd rather just hold the stress in myself. But that's what she's here for. She's here to help me with that stress, and I struggle with that, and I know a lot of people who do, men and women. The other thing I always hear in marriage is, well, it's 50-50. You give 50. No, it's not 50-50. It's 100-100, okay? And that's what other people struggle with. They're like, well, I'm giving him all he needs. I'm giving her all she needs. Are you giving her everything? Are you giving her 100%? Well, I got to keep some stuff for myself. Why? Why do you need to? What is so important, what is so vital in your life that the woman or the man that you said you're going to spend every moment till the day you die with, what is so important you are not going to tell them? What? Tell me. Because I don't get it. Now, most of the time, the stuff I struggle with telling my wife are not things that are life and death. It's more like, hey, I got paid this much and the budget's this much and we're short by $12. Instead, I just got to make it work. And that's something I'm working on because, let's be honest, that's not good either. It used to be what I was talking about earlier is I would keep lots of things and keep it hidden and just deal with it on my own. But now it's getting less and less because I'm working on it. But I know people who have been married longer than us who, they don't talk about things like that. They have separate bank accounts, and his job is this to pay with this with his bank account, and I pay this with my bank account. And as long as all the bills get paid, we don't talk about it. Why? Why don't you just talk about it and try to come to understandings? Because you know what? Maybe the husband doesn't want to pay the mortgage. Maybe he's like, hey, let's pay the mortgage together. Or, hey, you make more than I do. How about you pay the mortgage and I pay these bills? Or, hey, why is all of this big stuff on me and you get all the fun little stuff? This isn't fair. Because having all the big bills on one person's shoulders is exhausting. And it's not needed if you're married. It's not needed if you're in a committed relationship that you want to be with forever. If I die tomorrow, my wife, it will take a little time, but she has passwords to every online account. Now, will she be able to get to all of them because of technology? Maybe, maybe not. But she has all access to it, so she can go on and go, okay, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. And she might not understand all of it, but she'll understand enough to where the house will be fine, the cars will be fine, the kids will be fine, everything will be fine. And that's something easy to do, right? I mean, communicate those needs. I also know people who are married who talk with the opposite sex outside their marriage, and they flirt. It's no big deal because I'm not doing anything. It's not a big deal, whatever. It is. I hate to say it, but it is. It's a big deal to me, at least, because if I think I'm flirting with another woman, then that means there's something about that woman that's missing from my wife, and that means I don't love my wife the way I should. Now, maybe that's an old school thought. Maybe I'm just old school and backwards. Great, I'm old school and backwards. But I also know that I'd rather be old school and backwards and love my wife 100%. And be there for her, and she knows that I'm there for her, and she knows that I love her 100%, than to ever have an ounce of doubt in her mind or mine about my faithfulness and my ability to love her. A prime example of this is I was deployed to Afghanistan in 2011, and there were a lot of females, and I hung out with a lot of females, but not one of them ever thought I was hitting on them, I don't think. All the ones I've talked to since and before. 99.9% of the women there and the men there knew everything about my family and about my wife. Why? Because that's all I talked about around them. I have people I deployed with that are friends with my wife on Facebook, and they are because they felt like they knew her just from our deployment because I talked about her constantly. I talked about my kids. I talked about my wife. I talked about our marriage. I talked about things that were important to me. So there was never a doubt. It wasn't like someone there could say, well, I think you were cheating on your wife because you were hanging out with all these people. Go talk to those people. You know what they're going to tell you is that I was asking questions about what should I get my wife, or how do I get my wife this, or how do I make sure that she's happy with this. I was asking for advice to be a better husband. I wasn't asking anything else, because my wife and her happiness and my kids and her happiness were important to me 100%. So that brings me back to the fact of marriage. When you get married, you say vows. The basic vows are, do you promise to, love, cherish, honor, till death do you part. Till death do you part. Now, in today's world, they should just take that out. So many people get married, and it's kind of like an Amazon. You order Amazon, and you have 90 days to turn it, to exchange it and bring it back and, get your money back. I feel like weddings are like that now. You get married, and, oh, well, he folds his socks weird, or he doesn't know how to fold a fitted sheet, or he takes too long in the shower. So let's get divorced. It's okay. We split up amicably, or we split up well. Okay. There was no issues. We understand. We're better off friends. Don't get married if at the first wrong turn of a fitted sheet or a shower gel, or the way your husband or wife talks to people at McDonald's, or they look weird in the morning, or any of that. Don't get married then. Because when I took my vows, I took them forever. When my wife and I were going through troubles, and we were she was thinking about divorce, I stayed in the house. Now, I slept on the couch. I watched the kids. I did everything I was doing before, except for I was not with her. Even when she's like, well, I want a divorce and you need to leave, I said, well, honey, I love you. I made vows, and until the day we're divorced, I'm not leaving the house. I will sit on the couch. I will watch the kids if you need to go do things. I will pay the bills. I will do everything I'm supposed to do. But until the day the judge tells me we're no longer married, I'm not leaving. And I didn't. I had everybody telling me I should. I had pastors. I had my parents. I had other people telling me, you know what, it's okay. You did your best. It's okay. I couldn't. In my mind, I made a vow. And I won't say I've been perfect in my vow. I have screwed up a lot. I've done a lot of stupid things. But in the end, I've always loved and cherished my wife with every ounce of my being. I'm not the perfect husband, not the perfect human. There's a lot of things I need to work on, but I continue to strive to be better. And with that, I also understand that she's going to strive to be better also. And with her striving to be better, I need to give her grace. She doesn't have to give me grace, because that's her decision. Her decision is what she gives me, how much grace, how much leeway, how much mistakes, how much she's willing to give. I told her in the beginning that I'm going to give you as much space, time, and grace that you need. Has that always worked well for me? No. Has it hurt me a lot? Yes. Have I wanted to just give up and run away and join the circus? Yes. But I haven't. I've always stayed and done the right thing. Now, I'm not doing the right thing because it's the right thing. I've done the right thing because I love her. I respect her, and I want her to be a part of my life. And that's just that. Now, when it comes to arguments, I used to struggle with that too. Now, my struggle was different than maybe some of you. My struggle was this. I always had this mindset that you can't go to bed angry. So we'd be arguing. It'd be like 11 o'clock at night. She's like, I got to go to bed. I was like, we can't. We got to resolve this. We can't do it. We can't go to bed angry. And I would cause a scene, and it was horrible, and it was so stupid of me. Over the years, I've learned that that's not the right way to do things, because when you're tired, you make dumb decisions. When you're tired and emotional, you make really dumb decisions. So now we try to not just put a pin on it, but okay, we're going to talk about this tomorrow at this time when we're both mentally and physically there. There's no point to try to talk about it at 2 a.m. because nothing good's going to happen. So that's something we've changed and adjusted. I think we've done well with. But I've met married couples who, they don't fight, they don't argue, they don't disagree. They just smile, nod, and keep going. But how do you know as a couple that you're growing and working and changing for each other and changing to be better together if you don't know what each other wants? If I just did everything my wife wanted me to do with just smiling and nodding, then she would never know what I don't like. She would never know things that not only just scare me, but make me uncomfortable. She would just think, oh, well, that's, Richard loves to do that when I don't. Just like, if she didn't talk to me and we didn't disagree on things, I wouldn't find out things about her that I didn't know. The only way to know these things is to loudly talk about it sometimes. Sometimes you need to just let it out. You need to figure out what's ticking you off, get it out in the open. Now, once it's out in the open and you've had your, volcanic eruption, that's when you can calm down and you can figure out exactly what's making you upset, why it makes you upset. Your spouse might be like, I've never known that. You'd be like, well, I've given you hints for the last 10. Okay, I'm an idiot. I didn't pick up on those hints. I'm sorry. How can I make this better now? And usually what I've discovered over the last 20 plus years is I think I'm telling my wife these things. She thinks she's telling me things. We never actually told each other. We gave each other hints, clues, ideas, but we never actually said the words to each other. And that's when the power really comes in, because you can hint, you can, explain things in a way that won't hurt their feelings. You can drop subtle body language ideas. But if you don't say things, your spouse won't know. You've got to be transparent with your communication. And that's, I think, the last thing we really need to address is communication. Communicating with your spouse is the hardest thing you will ever do in your life. And you're thinking to yourself, that's crazy. What do you mean? It's not hard. To me, it's hard. Every time I talk to my wife, and it's getting better, so if you know who I am and you've spent time with me and my wife, don't think, oh my God, Richard's really struggling. Is telling her everything honestly and open, because I'm worried about disappointing her. Now, there are husbands out there who don't care if they disappoint their wife. There are wives out there who don't care if they disappoint their husband. And that's okay. That's you. Me, I am so worried about disappointing my wife every day, every minute of every day, that everything I do, say, everything that comes out of my mouth, I prejudge it on how I think my wife will react to it. Now, it used to be that I would sit on it and I would stew on it so long, I would give myself stomach aches and headaches, and I would cause myself to go bonkers. Now, of course, it's not as bad because I've given myself a little more grace, but everything from, hey, I got paid this much this week and she's expecting $3 more than myself, she's going to think we're going to go broke. And that's how I used to think. I'd be like, it's $3 under, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. And I would apologize for something that didn't need an apology. I would think, how am I going to cover that $3 and make sure that she knows that we're okay, when none of it needed to happen? And that's, I think, the big struggle that communication is for me and for people like me, is the fear of disappointment. it's not the fear of the known, it's the fear of the unknown. It's the, how is she going to react, or how is he going to react to this? And maybe none of you have this problem. Maybe it's just a me problem. And that's okay if it's just a me problem. But going to your spouse and going, hey, I know I was supposed to do A, B, C. This came up, or I didn't feel great, or I forgot. And being okay with just saying it, not making up an excuse, just being bluntly honest. Hey, honey, I know I was supposed to hang up 3 more shutters today. I only got 2 up. I was tired and I couldn't do it. That's, the truth. The truth isn't pretty. The truth isn't glamorous, but it's the truth. Hey, honey, I know I was supposed to get dog food in this much and I had this much money, but the dog food prices went up and I could only get this. And being okay with it, not going, okay, well, I can overcharge the card. I'll deal with the late fee later, and she doesn't need to know. No, just say, hey, I'm supposed to get dog food. This is what I was supposed to get. The prices went up. This is what I could get. And being okay with it. And that's a struggle I have, and I'm working on it every day. Because you see, marriage isn't something you finish. Marriage is something that, if you're doing it right, takes your life to do. On the last day of your life, if you have the ability, mentally and physically, you should wake up thinking, I love my spouse. And when you die, one of the last things you should think of is, I love my spouse. And did I do enough today? Or do I, something. Your spouse should be the first and last thing on your mind, along with, for me, it's thank you, God, for letting me wake up this morning, and thank you, God, for letting me survive the day, and thank you that my wife loves me, and that I love her. To me, that's how I deal with it. It's the first and last thing on my mind. Now, times like the Super Bowl or the World Series, will I go to bed really late and will I say, thank you, the Red Sox won, or thank you, the Patriots won, or thank you, the Celtics won? And then my wife, maybe, probably. I probably have. I probably will again, hopefully sooner than later. But I'm like that because those are important. But probably 362 days a year, it's my wife and God, and that's it. Thank you for both. That's all I really want to say to God every day is thank you for both. Thank you for caring enough to give me this woman in my life. And thank you for being in my life. As a married man, I will make a lot of mistakes. As a married man with a mindset like mine, I will make even more mistakes than men with mindsets that are different than mine. As a married man, I have to remind myself that I cannot fix every problem my wife has. I cannot fix every problem my children have. I cannot fix every problem I have. Sometimes problems can't be fixed. Sometimes problems and challenges are just problems and challenges that exist with or without me there. I'm not going to fix global warming. I'm not going to fix the war and terror. I'm not going to fix the economy. I can fix my wife's laptop. I can fix her phone if there's an issue. I can help, streaming channels on the television. I can help with a printer. I can help if there's an issue with her car, things like that. But I am not changing the world around us. I'm changing the world in our little bubble. I'm changing the world when there's a problem there. But if she comes to me with a problem that I can't change and I can't fix, I've got to be okay with not being able to fix it. So as a husband, as a wife, you don't have to fix your spouse's problems. Now, sometimes they'll be like, hey, I really need your help with this. Then help them. But sometimes they just want to just vent, say the world sucks, and then you move on. Sometimes they just want to complain. And you've got to be okay with that. You've got to be okay with the world not being okay. and your spouse not being happy about it, you not being happy about it. But in the end, you can be happy together. Because I'm happy. I mean, I'm very happy. I am blessed with a beautiful wife. I'm blessed with beautiful children. I have people that are very close to me that, sometimes I forget are very close to me, that care about me. I have parents that love me very differently, but they do love me. And I have family who, in their own way, loves me the best they can. And I've got to be okay with that too. So tonight, or whenever you listen to this, if you have a husband, if you have a wife, just remind them that you love them. Remind them that you're an idiot. Remind them that you care. Remind them that, you're going to make mistakes, but thank them for always being there to support you when you do something really stupid. If you don't have a spouse yet, or you had one and you don't have one anymore, there's people in your life that love you. There's people in your life that support you. There are people in your life that show up when you need them, and sometimes even when you don't. There are people who show up when you don't call them because they just know you need them. Thank those people. Be the kind word to that person that day. Go up to somebody and say, you know what? I appreciate you. I appreciate you because even when I don't know that I need you, you show up because I need you. And thank you. This is Richard Mariello, Category Mistake. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for caring. And thank you all for just absorbing what comes out of my little weird brain of mine. And thank you for continuing to go on this journey with me as I figure out how much of a category mistake I am compared to others. And are there others like me in this world? And what I'm realizing more and more is there are people out there who think like I do. Not exactly, but enough to where they understand what's going on inside my brain. And they understand that they are special. Just a different kind of special. Have a great week.